where, of course, that crucial vote will be taken. Kweku, what do you have on the order paper?
So, blessed, according to this provisional order paper, which is usually advertised 24 hours to sitting, it has the motion of the minority leader and the minority chief whip, as well as 127 other MPs who are seeking a vote of censure to remove Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in accordance with Article 82 of the 1992 Constitution. So this order paper repeats the seven key grounds that the minority are seeking to canvass to use to remove Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta from office tomorrow.
Quickly, let's break this down. First of all, tell us about the demands from the minority side of the House. Aside the issue of the economic hardship, what more reasons are accounting for this?
So indeed, if you look at the first reason that the minority are laying to seek the censure against Finance Minister, they say he's accused of the double conflict of interest, ensuring that he directly benefits Ghana's economic the companies receive commission and other unethical contractual advantages, particularly from US debt overhang, unconstitutional withdrawals from the consolidated fund, in blatant contravention of the Constitution, to accuse the finance minister of illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore accounts in flagrant violation of the 1992 Constitution. They say the finance minister has been deliberately dishonest in reporting economic data to Parliament. And the last three grounds are that there is fiscal recklessness leading to the crash of the Ghana city, and then alarming incompetence, and then finally, gross mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy, which has occasioned untold and unprecedented hardship. So these are the seven grounds upon which Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka Mubarak Mohammed, as well as the 127 other MPs who filed this motion, will be anchoring that demand, which is seeking the removal of the finance minister.
And you've been in Parliament all day. Have we heard from any of the MPs already on what is likely to happen tomorrow?
Indeed, on 1:32 today, when the House adjourns, the minority deputy whip, Ahmed Ibrahim, brought on his colleagues to come to the floor tomorrow as early as possible so that this can be done. According to Ahmed Ibrahim, it is very, very important for honorable MPs to take this constitutional imperative very important and then seek to act against the finance minister. We know that over the past few weeks, he and his colleagues in leadership of the minority bench have been rallying their colleagues on both sides to support this motion. So just before the House adjourned today, they gave an inkling of what was expected to happen tomorrow, giving the indication that this side is ready to move this motion and that whenever it's ready, they want their colleagues in the majority to support.
They have to get this succeed, because when it succeeds, then everybody will now be careful about trying to hurt them. If it fails, I can assure you they're not going to find it easy. So my encouragement to them is that, please, at least your 80, some may chicken out of fear, but your conviction for which reason you decided to do what you did, you have a 136 that is there to give you the minimum threshold to build upon. Come join us, because I can assure you tomorrow we'll make history. If you join us, we'll make history, and for the first time in the history of our country, ministers will begin to take the work that they have given super, super serious and know that there are consequences if you fail to act and manage according to the way you are supposed to do. The output that is expected of you, people will begin to sit up. But if it fails, obviously, it will be business as usual. Because remember, this is the closest that we've come, where there's at least half of the House waiting for some few to join. Most of the time, you have the majority have overwhelming number. So it's like, oh, this matter I do about nothing. In 1999, when the MPP were daring to do this, their number was just about 60, is it 68 or 61, between 60 and 69. And the majority had overwhelming 130 something. So, I mean, it was like, oh, we're just doing it for the record.
Okay.
But this time, the number is so close that with just about 50 more members, it could happen. So if it succeeds, believe me, for the rest of the 2 years, any minister of state will be careful because he knows there could be danger. But if it fails, then it's like, oh, business as usual. So they'll continue to do the things that they are doing. That will be hurting all of us. And then we'll continue the excessive partisanship. That will not help our country.
Well, so that's the Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, speaking with Aisha Ibrahim. That full interview later tonight on PM Express. But the man at the center of all of this, Ken Ofori-Atta himself, says that he's been through the pains and aches and feels blessed to have the opportunity to lead the country. That, at least that's how close we've come to getting a sense of how the finance minister himself feels about calls for his resignation.
Just to assure you that you have a finance minister who has gone through all the pains and aches, and nobody can really come and say you don't understand what we are doing. The question is, what resources do we have and how are we going to deploy them in the nation that we have, and how do you stand firm in very difficult circumstances but being very confident that the nation is purposed for greatness, and you are blessed to have the opportunity to lead where we are going. And let me assure you all that your best bet is still Ghana. We can do it, and we should do it.
And you're still with us on Top Story. Let's connect now to Ahmed Ibrahim, MP for Banda, who also doubles as the Deputy Minority Chief Whip in Parliament. Mr. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us here on Top Story.
Good evening, my brother.
So we've just heard from the Finance Minister himself indicating that he's been through a lot of pains and aches. Are you not emotionally moved by what it is that, the government appointee has to say, giving the grounds that you are asking him to leave office?
Brother, let me say a very good evening to your cherished listeners. Regarding the censorship motion that we are going to do tomorrow, it has nothing to do with emotions. We are representatives of the good people of Ghana. We have been given the power of the purse. We have given the mandate to the Minister of Finance to collect taxes on behalf of the people and to use those taxes on behalf of the people. But the people have given us the mandate to check him. So if we say because of emotion, we are going to relent on our work, what do you think will become out of the Ghana's parliament?
Well, I'm asking the question because probably his pains and aches may be stemming from how difficult it is for any individual who may be finance minister at a time when the country is recovering from a global shock, the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we're beginning to feel the effects of the Russian-Ukrainian war. These are some of the reasons for which, for instance, the president himself believes that Ken should still be in office. So, given the situation he finds himself in, why not give him some more days to stay and to change the course of the country?
Rather, is Ken Ofori-Atta the minister for Russia-Ukraine, or he's the minister of Ghana? We gave you the position of Ghana's finance minister. You cannot be talking of Russia-Ukraine. Then if that is the case, until Russia-Ukraine war comes to an end, Ghanaians are not going to solve their economic or financial problems. Is that what you are telling me?
Let's take a look at his books, for instance. This is a finance minister that moved us into a single-digit inflation range, very rare in our political history. And you agree that post-COVID, looking at the COVID era, then our figures began to look bad. So doing the comparative analysis, some believe that it may not entirely be the fault of Ken Ofori-Atta. Don't you think so?
Brother, what the economic hand of Orata inherited was predicted to grow by double-digit inflation in 2017 as a result of the new oil wells that were going to come on board, and as a result of Ghana gas that was going to come on board. So the oil wells came on board in 2017, 2018. Ghana gas came on board in 2017, 2018. So the oil economy, the oil growth, propelled us to get the 7-digit inflation that was predicted pre-2016. And don't forget, at that time too, we were on IMF program. Beyond that, the Ministry of Finance was divided into three. There was a minister in charge of economic planning, and that was Honorable Professor Jambafo. There was minister in charge of economic monitoring, and that was a monitoring of program. That was Mr. Dr. Akoto Osei. And even there was a senior minister monitoring all the economic programs. So pre-2020, we had 4 ministers. The Minister for Economic Planning, which was Dr. Professor Jambafo. The Minister for Finance, which was Ken Oporata. The Minister for Monitoring Economic Ministries, that was the Senior Minister Osapo Mafo. And the Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, that was Dr. Akoto Afriye. Then there was a Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, that was Ken Oporata. So the Ministry of Finance was divided into 5 and given to 5 people. 2020, after the election, in 2021, Professor Economic Planning was added to Ken Oporata. Monitoring and Evaluation was added to Ken Oporata. Economic monitoring, Osapo Mafo's role was also given to Ken Oporata. So it's like that was the time that Ghanaians were saying that we wanted to see his effort. And his results are nothing to write on about. On 30th October, the president came out to admit that the economy is in crisis. And if we give you the mandate to turn around our economy, and the economy is in crisis, even this pre-COVID era that I'm giving the figures, we were also getting access to the international monetary market. So we were borrowing for the value of the thing. Now the opportunity to borrow is closed. Right. Now that the investment banker has no access to go and borrow, and he's not an expert in economic development or economic planning, what is the essence of keeping him there?
And the biggest hurdle you may be facing tomorrow will be about the constitutionally required numbers. The fear is 137 of your MPs may not be sufficient in getting what it is that you want.
Brother, you remember in economic finances or public finances, credibility is an issue. The Minister for Finance, if you listen to the veteran economist, Kwame Pieni, he said the minister is facing credibility problems. And therefore, our messenger to the IMF program is not credible. So if we don't have a credible messenger on the IMF, and the country Ghana cannot present a budget by the constitutional and legal mandated day of 15th November, and we are now going to be waiting on the messenger who is not credible to come from the IMF before we do that. It is a duty, moral and national duty for all the 275 MPs to make sure that we come to the chamber tomorrow and we have the 183 votes to be able to kick the finance minister out.
At least they started the process by holding a press conference, calling on the president to dismiss Ken Oporata, and then there's a U-turn, a statement signed to that effect by the majority leader himself, HM Sabun. So indicating that the president intends to have that conversation after we're done with the IMF negotiations. And all of these MPs say, we agree with the president.
If you listen to them very well, it's not emphatic that the president is going to sack the finance minister after the IMF program. And let me tell you, do you remember that Kwesi Kwarteng, the finance minister of UK, was seated with Ken Ofori-Atta in the IMF meeting? Kwesi Kwarteng himself has been sacked. The Prime Minister of UK has been sacked. Liz Truss has been sacked. Boris Johnson has been sacked. Now there's a second finance minister and there's a second Prime Minister. Has the UK economy collapsed?
But anyway, we need to state on record that Liz Truss actually resigned as a matter of fact.
No, but
beyond that,
what I'm saying is that
yes,
within
I
the
just want
last
to
6
move
months,
beyond that. Yes, I get that point. But let's move beyond that. The issue about the numbers, convincing the colleagues on the other side of the aisle, that would not be an easy task.
The majority leader himself has questioned the House by saying that a businessman brought money that he was coming to bribe them and they sacked him. If truly they didn't take the money and they sacked the businessman, then they should be present in the chamber to vote and sack the finance minister tomorrow. Failure to do that will create some kind of doubt on the amount of democratic watchers. And our parliament is going to be suffering credibility problems. And to save Ghana and to save the eroding image of parliament, they must be present tomorrow in parliament for us to vote and sack the finance minister. The president is a lawyer. If you read Article 82 of the Constitution, it says that once the motion of censure has been received by the finance minister, it must be debated and passed within 14 days.
So we'll get to the legality of it. Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, just hold on for us, because even on that constitutional article you're referring to, there may be another hurdle. Let me bring in now a former government spokesperson on finance who also had the chance of sitting in some of these meetings when you're in the House. I'm talking about Daniel Ochema-Boachi, who is also former MP for the Bantama constituency. Good evening to you, sir. The calls are raging, and part of the reasons for which the minority believes that the Ken must go is simply because of the collapse of the Ghanaian economy and also the excruciating cost of living crisis. Some say you don't need a magician to tell you that because if you look at our rate of inflation, even as at the end of October, we're surging above 40%. What more do you need to convince the president that he must let Ken go?
Let me say good evening to you, Blessed, and your team, and to my senior Honorable Ahmed and your good listeners. I believe the situation we find ourselves as a country now is difficult. The president has accepted that we are in serious economic difficulties. We are, in fact, in crisis. Everybody understands that. Both internal and external factors account for this. And it's quite challenging, I must be honest with you. I think everybody knows. So I would want to advise our friends on the other side that if they really mean serious business, they should really be working with the majority people to be able to accomplish what they wish to do.
And these your same colleagues have issued a statement. They're telling the people of Ghana that they agree with the approach of the president, that we must first get done with the IMF deal before we even have a conversation, on issues relating to relieving the finance minister of his post.
I don't think the president ask is out of place. The president is saying that, you know what, I hear you. 80 of you have come out majority side. You are asking me to take a decision on the finance minister, but please give me time for him to finish the discussion and the negotiation that is going on. We have a budget that has to be presented in a couple of weeks. Let's wait after these two major events. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So if our friends on the other side really mean business, they should also be willing to wait. Let's wait and see what happens in 2 weeks' time. Let's wait and see what happens after these two events. And that's why you'll be able to convince Ghanaians that, okay, you know what? Even the majority MPs who asked the president to fire the finance minister, have agreed to wait. So why don't we wait with them? And then after that, we all join hands together in the interest of Ghana and pursue a common cause that is going to help all of us, if that is what they really are wishing or thinking. But to say you have 136 or 137, half of the House, and you can win this vote of, no confidence, and be able to sack the finance minister, to me, they don't have their numbers. They don't. So for me, it's just that they have to wait. They have to exercise a bit of patience, and they have to also be willing to work with the majority side, because otherwise, I can tell you, they don't have the numbers.
I'm sure that you've, come across the argument that you as a political party have moved with the refrain that you have, quote, the men. So that question stares you in the face. Where are the men in the NPP? Why wouldn't it be a simple case of just finding a replacement for Ken Ofori-Atta?
The power to appoint and disappoint lies in the hands of the president. All right? That is what the Constitution says. So, yes, we do have the men, but the president has the power. We have given it the executive power, the president the executive power, to be able to appoint or disappoint. Much as you wish to appeal to the president, or many people are calling for the head of the finance minister, the power lies again in the hands of the president.
And Daniel Otem-Agboaji, you are a stalwart of the New Patriotic Party. Address this rumors for us. The fact that some of your members of your political party, are in fact running away from taking on the appointment. They believe this is the toughest time to be a finance minister. Is that correct?
I don't think anybody is running away, so to say. If you have opportunity to be appointed as the finance minister, it's an honor. That I'm sure is a platform that gives you a chance to serve your country. All right? So if the president gives you that honor and invites you to become a finance minister or to replace somebody or to do something, much as you would like to look at it and the timing of it and everything, I sincerely believe that it's an honor to probably step up to the show and serve their country, regardless. All right? But we have not gotten to the point yet, even though there are so many calls that is asking that the president consider reshuffling the finance minister. To me, we should wait. There's a conversation going on. At least the president has heard the 80 MPs and even Ghanaians and say, please, let's wait. Let's deal with these two major events, the budget and the negotiation. And then after that, we will have a conversation or he'll make a decision.
Okay.
How much more time do we have to wait? Not too long.
Well, the minority is running out of time on that. But let's wrap up, gentlemen. And I'll start off with you, Ahmed Ibrahim. Back on the issue of Article 82 of the 1992 Constitution, which you're referring to, the first hurdle I was talking about was the 2/3 majority which you need in Parliament. Beyond that as well, even the passage of the votes of censure for some legal brains may not necessarily mean that the finance minister would have to leave office. Ultimately, that appointing authority lies in the president, so he may have to revoke the appointment. How would you deal with that legal head-up?
Let me welcome my brother Otem-Agboaji, who is also a finance expert and qualified to be a finance minister as well.
You want him on a lighter note. You want him to replace Ken Ofori-Atta.
On a lighter note, he qualifies as well. It's one of the men they have. But on a very serious note, what you were saying, if you read Article 82, Clause 5, it says where a vote of censure is passed against a minister under this article, the president may, unless the minister resigns his office, revoke his appointment as a minister. So there are two options. Either the minister resigns or the president will fire him after the 2/3 majority vote in Parliament. That is our understanding about it. And the Constitution also says the minister of state, in respect of whom a vote of censure is being debated under this clause or article, is entitled during the debate to be heard in his defense
So tomorrow, the Minister of Finance, if he so desire, he can come and defend himself on the floor. He has that mandate. But as to whether he's able to defend himself or not, everything will be put into vote. And once we garner two-thirds majority, he has no business being there. We are doing this not because of sheer hatred, but we are doing this because of the mere conviction and admission by the president that he cannot achieve debt sustainability until 2028.
All right, then.
Meanwhile, your mandate expires in the next 2 years. And you are saying that even in the next 2 years, you cannot solve the problem unless after 2028. Then, if that is what you are saying, and you think we in minority will sit down looking at you where you have admitted clearly that you cannot fix the problem until after 6 years' time, where will you, Nana Akufo-Addo, be in 6 years' time?
Interesting question you are asking there, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Let me give the rest of the 30 seconds left to Daniel Otioma-Boakye.
Well, let me say that the minority don't have the numbers. They have to wait. Majority MPs have spoken. The president has responded. I think 2 weeks or a month from now is not too far. And in the interest of all, Ghana, we should all unite to support the president and wait and see what happens.
And indeed, we'll be monitoring events as they unfold in Parliament tomorrow. You want to make a date with us here on Joy News. All of our platforms will definitely be covering that for you. And that's it for Top Story. I'm Blessed Sudan. Log on to myjoyonline.com for updates. Next is Newsnight.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. In the next 60 minutes, Agric Ministry to investigate alleged excessive profiteering of traders and market women said to be the cause of the current food price hikes as food prices continue to soar.
There is speculation that it could be due to some traders making supernormal profits. It's something that has to be investigated. There's nothing to justify the doubling or tripling of retail price of food in the major cities.
But the market women are attributing the hikes to transportation costs. But the sector minister is dismissing this suggestion.
Many attributes the high increase in the cost of fuel and transportation. Whereas this may be true to some extent, our analysis at the ministry revealed that it is over-exaggerated.
Also this evening, Attorney General's first witness in the Aisha Wang trial admits he has no personal knowledge of her alleged involvement in illegal mining.
The Attorney General brought a witness who came to say that he has no personal independent information about my client, Aisha Wang, being connected with illegal mining.
But will this help or hurt the state's case? We'll hear from lawyers of the Chinese national as she's denied bail yet again. Also tonight. As parents express worry about the negative impact of strike by 3 teacher unions, the National Labour Commission has directed them to call off their strike and get back to the negotiation table with government over their concerns. We have details of that meeting with the NLC.
And in 30 minutes on business, we'll be looking at the impact of the rising inflation rate on consumers, businesses, and the larger economy.
And in sports, brouhaha over rejection of some key prospective Black Stars players. Tonight, we'll tell you why some Ghanaians are up in arms and get some explanation for the coach-preferred squad.
The players I want to see in the squad, I wanted to see Jeffrey Schropp, but from what I'm hearing, it seems he will not be part of it. But I think Ghanaians, we need to calm down.
Justice Shrubs. I'm expecting a player like Gideon Mensah to take over where Babarama is.
We have details of that and more here on Newsnight. You want to join us with your thoughts and comments? It's via WhatsApp on 055-1111-997. You're watching live on Facebook. You can leave your comments there as well. I am Emefa Apau. Many thanks for your company. Do stay for details. We stay for details now. Thank you very much for joining us once again. And tonight, market women and other traders will be put under the lens of the Ministry for Food and Agriculture as it investigates allegations that they are excessively overpricing foods to make supernormal profits. Inflation currently stands beyond 40%. As of the last check, it is 40.4% as announced by the Statistical Service today, with the price of food a major driver. Answering questions in Parliament, the Minister, Dr. Owusu-Efiri Akoto, said this development of profiteering has come to the attention and they are investigating.
Some are speculating that the marketeers are making supernormal profit. That is something that has to be looked at. But we haven't gone there. What we are actually looking at is actual cost in terms of the breakdown, the price breakdown between the farm gate and the consuming centers like Medina and Makola and so on. And these prices we collect all the time. Our staff are always in the markets reporting to us the retail prices that are pertaining in these markets compared to what is in the producing areas. So your guess is as good as mine. Some are saying it's the market women who are making supernormal profits. Some are saying it's traders, but I definitely know with this analysis that it's not transportation. It's something that has to be investigated. But in terms of price formation analysis, there's nothing to justify the doubling or tripling of retail price of food in the major cities.
Well, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, however, insists cost of transportation is not the cause of the current food price hikes. He has also been reiterating his plan to turn the ministry into a market center to sell cheap food items to the general public.
I've just returned from a tour of regions in southern belt of the country, and Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that prices in the urban centers, particularly in Accra, are a far cry from what obtains in particular production centers in the regions. Many attribute the high increase to the cost of fuel and transportation. Whereas this may be true to some extent, our analysis at the ministry reveal that it is over-exaggerated. Accordingly, government and the ministry on its own is arranging to transport food from the production centers directly to Accra to provide food at reasonable prices to the public and the workers.
Well, that's the Agric Minister, Dr. Owusu-Efiri Akoto there. We'll hear more from him, plus our parliamentary affairs correspondent shortly. But first, some market women and traders have been responding to the criticism of overpricing of food items and profiteering. My colleague Michael Papania-Shale visited the Malamata market just here around the corner, and he's returned with what he found. Michael, thanks for joining us. What explanations exactly did the market women give for the hike in food prices?
Contrary to what the minister said, that this is not attributed to transport fares, the women blame solely transport fares actually for the reason they've had to increase the price of their wares at least over the last 3 months to more than 100%. And you ask them which other reasons, and they are lost for words. They say if fuel comes down, that's definitely the prices of their goods going to come down.
It's too much.
So I see. So it's transportation.
I'm sure.
No. So for you, what has gone into moving from 14 to 60 Ghana cedis?
You see, the way they have increased the fuel is the cost.
Okay.
So I'm sure.
And it's not necessarily the cost of your transporting it from maybe the market. You don't think that the farmer all the way getting to use the component of transport?
You see, this the palm, this oil, they manufacture it from Ghana here.
Okay.
So we don't have, it's supposed not to be expensive.
Expensive.
Yeah, but they have to bring it down. It's too much.
The millet, not first, what one is saying?
Along Ghana.
Do the church of last year, what on millet no saying, and as you see, what one is saying?
15. And as I say, 22 cities.
Long can no patch away.
There be
Cassiano. But the Cassiano, 15. But last year, and as you see, what one is saying?
22 cities.
22 Ghana cities. What is 7 cities in Ghana Council?
When so now it was 25.
25 cities.
No say minutes.
I see. But I think 2 points. Most of those 7 cities on that account.
Me pa cho say a lot of fun. Okofa, ne boy do, and a lot of fun so. Omo de bia ka ho.
Na okofa no he.
We me for enough.
Etu ufri ho ba ya je saying.
The I am money.
Money.
First na kotoko no, na 15 cities. Say I have 50 cities.
Okay, into which I saw turn now when you be. I see that she's been telling me walking us through the different types of millets that we have. This particular type tells me it was 15 Ghana cities last year, but now she's had to sell it for 22 Ghana cities. And same for the others. It's become more expensive because she says she pays more for transport.
Every say I didn't know say na me kan esa. Every say nipa kono be bia me kire say petrol na ne board na amanya mane na akosoro. Say petrol ni ba for nyama ne na be ba form. Enti me so ma adwena me kire say omo nti petrol ni so na nyama ne mbra form. Ama kwansifo na kwansifo so omo be bia we.
So these were the traders at the Makola markets that you interacted with, Michael. You also broke the news to them about the minister's announcement in Parliament that the Agric Ministry will be turned into a marketplace where cheap food items will be on sale. How did they react to that?
So at Malata Market, their belief is that it may not be feasible. The minister should rather focus on reducing transport fares, reducing fuel components, and definitely their prices will come down.
Any possible. Nti want petrol so na nyama so mbra form. And one e wo ma je
na yesi mo so mo na pesa mo nya sika wo situation because amani mo eden e na mo di bi kan ho amon dey.
Dey kan ho. Ye fa bi anka ade ho.
So in essence, they are outrightly rejecting the claim about profiteering. Michael, is that the
case?
Yes,
so really they are only trying to make ends meet at the end of the day. So only adding their profit margin and adding their cost of input. And that's what they're actually doing.
Okay. Well, I'll take you to Parliament shortly when our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kwekwa Sante, joins us. But let me bring in Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, Professor John Gachi. We're grateful for your time here on Newsnight. You've been watching this particular situation and the concerns that have been raised over the period about profiteering on the part of these market women. But the minister has some solutions today, mentioning that amongst others, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture will be turned into a marketplace where we'll be selling cheap food amongst others. You've heard the traders as well. From where you stand, really, what's your thought on what you've heard so far?
Well, I think the market women or the traders are just rational traders who are factoring into their pricing the development surrounding what they do in terms of the input costs, in terms of transportation, etc. So I would rather think that the traders are just rational market women and ensuring that their pricing reflects the cost development around them. I'm not sure what the minister is saying is rational, and it is also not feasible turning the Ministry of Food and Agriculture into a marketplace. I think, for want of better words, it is like the minister is trivializing the implication of high food prices and the expression of disgust and hardship by the people of Ghana. It should rather go around this issue in a more professional, empathetic, and sensitive manner.
But when you say he's trivializing the issues about food prices, for him, from where he stands, he feels that the issue is not about the cost of transportation. He said this when he went to the Western region as well, and then saying it in Parliament as well. For him, it appears that it is the traders themselves that are taking advantage of the current economic woes. That's inaccurate?
That is inaccurate. That's why I said that the traders are just rational, ensuring that their prices reflect the development in the country.
How are they being rational when, in fact, in some cases, cost of contumely, okra, we've been to the market and they tell you the prices are being affected because of the dollar rate?
Well, I believe the dollar rate affects pricing in the country, and that reflects in transport fares, also is reflecting fuel prices. So all those things affect commuting from one point to another in the country. So if anybody says that he doesn't understand that if this input cost goes up, it should reflect in pricing, then you want to reduce the traders into philanthropy, and they are not.
So from where you stand then, you've heard the minister, but you feel that these are not workable solutions. How then do we go forward dealing with this particular situation? What do you suggest?
Well, I think we need to appreciate the fact that apart from contumely and coda you are mentioning, most of our staple foods, we have become net importers of those staple foods. And depreciation and the rest that we're talking about affect them. If we are bringing about annual $400 million import of tomatoes from Burkina Faso to Ghana, it will be affected by exchange rate, it will be affected by transport costs, and all those things will affect pricing. Those are the things we should be targeting to address. What percentage of our staple food that have become net importers do we want to reverse? I believe those are the agricultural policies that the minister should focus on. But denying price development all the time, even before this critical situation we find ourselves, there is no time that the Minister of Agriculture will accept any development that we complain about in the country. And I believe that is becoming unbecoming. If you fail to accept what is happening in the country, you would never prescribe the right solution. And that is what is happening to our Agri Minister and the Agri Ministry.
Well, speaking about food, and just before I let you off, today our inflation rate for October has been announced and is 40.4%. Did we see that coming?
Hello?
I'm asking about inflation and whether you saw the 40.4% coming. Were you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised because there's something we call pass-through effect. So if we the last reading of the inflation figures, just after that, 2 days after that, transport fares will increase, fuel prices will increase, and these are very sensitive price developments that have effect on pricing of other items on our market. So definitely, you know that pass-through effect will have upward development in October inflation.
Okay. Prof. Gachi, we are grateful. That's Professor John Gachi. He's the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School there. Well, something has gone terribly wrong. The Bank of Ghana must call an immediate monetary policy committee meeting to tackle the scary inflation figures. These are the words of minority spokesperson on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kaisel Atoforsen, as Ghana's inflation hits a highest in 2 decades. The inflation today is at 40.4%, with the increase in prices of food commodities being the key driver. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, food inflation recorded the highest rate among all the components as against non-food inflation, as it jumped 3% from the previous rate of 37.2% in September. Well, housing, gas, water, electricity, amongst others, all contributed significantly to the new rate. To help us break it down a bit further is a member of our research desk, data analyst Isaac Kofieje. He's been analyzing all the figures and will give us a breakdown, help us all make sense out of it. Well, when was the last time we experienced such a high figure?
So you were right. The last time we had such a high figure was in 2001, when inflation was around 41%. Currently, we are experiencing 40.4%. So it's been 2 decades and a year already.
And we understand some items have inflation rates more than 50%.
So we have the usual suspects. The top 5, including first being diesel, has gone up by 155.6%. This simply means that if you compare the price of diesel from last year October to this year October, the price has actually gone up by 155.6%. Petrol, on the other hand, has gone up by 111.9%. Groundnut up by 111%. Palm oil up by 105.9%, and washing soap by 104.1%.
Well, we'll talk about some of the key drivers and the percentages that have been given to it, but give us a regional breakdown as we have it.
Right, so if you look at the regional breakdown, you realize that although the headline figure is 40.4%, we have regions like the Eastern region, which once upon a time had the least inflation rate, now currently having the highest rate of 51.1%. Greater Accra, 49.1%. There's also the Central region, 46.6%, all having inflation rates above the national figure of 40.4%. Emfa.
Well, you've been taking a look at what pertains in other African countries. What did we find?
Right, so we've been looking at inflation rates for some other African countries, and I would like to take us through. So if you look at inflation rate for, let's say, Kenya, it's now 9.6% for October. Zambia, they just got an IMF program of $1.3 billion. Their inflation has now increased from double digits now to single digits of 9.7%. If you also look at Togo, government is spending close to $20 million every month to make sure that fuel prices and price of other food items are down. Their inflation is now 7.9%.
Well, I've always heard you, at least when you're breaking down the figures over the period, talk about how diesel, petrol, amongst others, and transportation in particular are key drivers of inflation. But this year or this month, I'm hearing stuff about prices of underwear. In fact, women underwear. What role really is this playing here?
So on page 16 of the bulletin, you see this information, the additional policy considerations, and the Statistical Service will list 20 items with the highest inflation rate, and number 9 is what you just mentioned.
Number 9.
Underwears, number 9.
Okay.
Underwears for women. It's actually imported a non-food item. Inflation rate is now 89.2%. It means if you simply compare the price of an underwear from October last year to now, the price has actually gone up by close to 90%. Mfa.
Kofi, thank you very much for helping us make sense out of the entire figures that have been put out by the Statistical Service. We'll engage them also further. But this is very interesting. I know most of you have been talking about it. This particular issue about women's underwear or women's undergarments, that is a key driving force of inflation for the month of October. We'll be now there speaking to traders on how is it that these prices have become such key indicators for inflation for the month of October. Listen.
Formerly, somewhere May, June, it's 50 Ghana cedis for a dozen. Now it's 100 Ghana. And then we have this type. The same month is about 2 or 3, 4 months ago. It's 60 Ghana cedis. Now we are selling it 101.
60 Ghana cedis, did I hear that?
Yes, please.
And it's now how much?
101.
101 Ghana cedis. 10? That's about 50 Ghana cedis more.
Yes, because of the CFA. You see, I've already told you that it's about 2 or 3, 4 months ago. The CFA was 8 cedis, and now it's about 2 CD and distance. So you can see the difference.
Wow. Okay.
Through the CFA.
So which other ones do we have? So the one that you raised earlier, what was the name?
Hey, the pants.
I thought some of the panties have names. Forgive me, I'm not so much educated on the types of panties and stuff that we have. Okay.
Like Dana Rose.
Okay.
This one is Dana Rose. And then
so this is a famous G-string?
Yes.
I see.
So you can see.
So for this one, for instance, the one that you are holding.
One is 10 CDs. Formerly it was 6 CDs.
So
But now
for
it's
this
10
one,
cedis.
now 10 cities. Let's go back to last year December.
Dozen price.
Okay, so last year December, dozen price was how much?
Now dozen price is 10 cedis.
Wow. So last year December, how much did you sell it?
Last year, because even just about 3, 4, 5 months alone, it has shoot.
So 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Yeah, it's 5 cities.
Dozen price one was 5 Ghana cedis, and now it's how much?
Now it's 10 cedis for dozen price.
Well, almost everything seems to have increased.
Yes,
very quickly. At least over the last 3, 4 months for you. How is the business going? Are people still patronizing?
The business is not good at all. The business is not good at all, but at times they manage.
They manage.
Yeah.
I mean, when the customers come, what are some of the sentiments that they pass on? Or do they come and just pay outright?
Like I said, they are managed because you can't go without pants. Though we have some of the ladies, they don't wear it. But some too, by all means, you have to wear because they said every 3 months you have to change your pants. So they are trying. In fact, it's not been easy for us, but you can't sit in the house too.
So I only pray that it doesn't collapse and people don't stop wearing panties. But thank you very much. And someone watch me.
14 cities. Last year, 14 cities. But this year, 60 cities.
Okay.
It's too much.
Last year, 14
cities.
But this year, 60 cities.
60 cities.
Now, so we Ketwa wins where?
40 crowd.
7
cities.
Well, so that's Papa Ni's interaction with some traders on this women's undergarment and how it found its way into the inflation rate for October 2022. As it stands now, a 40.4%, and one of the key drivers, we're told, is women's undergarment in non-food inflation. Well, minority spokesperson on finance, Dr. Kese Latufosin, says something has gone terribly wrong, and he's urging the Bank of Ghana to immediately call an immediate monetary policy committee meeting to tackle what he describes as scary inflation figures.
It's so scary. The question I ask myself is, this is Ghana Statistical Service speaking, the official state institution that is supposed to measure inflation. They've come out to tell us that inflation is 40.4%. What about the unofficial rate? So today, I feel, even though they have announced inflation at 40.4%, I feel that inflation is in the middle of 100 because it doesn't add up. What is happening? What did Ghana do wrong to deserve this? For us to see inflation moving from just about 12-13% within a year to jump all the way to 40%, something has terribly gone wrong. And that is why I expect the government to take pragmatic steps. And I hope the central bank is going to take us. The Bank of Ghana that is supposed to do the inflation targeting, I expect them to call for an immediate monetary policy committee meeting to tackle inflation. Because what they are doing is wishy-washy. It's not good enough.
Well, that's the minority spokesperson on finance, Dr. Kese Latufosin, speaking to us earlier on the announcement of 40.4% as October's inflation rate. Well, head of price statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service, Foster Ajaho, thankfully joins us on the line. We are grateful for your time, Mr. Ajaho, here on Newsnight. So, first off, I'm sure you've heard concerns about people saying that this particular 40.4% figure could be higher. Is that really the case? How do you respond to such claims?
Good evening, Mefa. Well, it is an opinion that we cannot take away from people, but the reality is that the rate is 40.4. Don't forget, computing inflation takes into consideration averages. So yes, you may have a particular item that you have in mind, which may probably have gone up by, let's say, 50%, but then the official rate is 40.4.
Well, earlier we spoke to you some months back, and I heard you proffer some solutions that we could put in place to avert this surge in figures? Because these are staggering figures that is surprising to many, even though some believe that it could be higher than what is being put out there. Really, is there an intervention from your side that you put out that is not being listened to?
I can't say really, because like what I was listening to one professor of economics. Once inflation goes that high, it takes quite a long time to be able to control for it to come. So the idea would have been that we should have even waited to get to this level. Yes, the policies have been implemented, but they may take time. Some have lag periods before they take effect.
Well, Foster, I've been looking at the figures. My colleague has also been taking us through it, breaking it down and helping us make sense out of it. But some of the key drivers that has got people talking, including the price of women's underwear. Really, tell me, what role really is it playing here?
My boss asked him that question. I said, why is he waiting for Joy? Don't mind me. But you see, as we announced, almost every item in the basket, except one, has seen a positive change in price. And that includes underwear. These are items that hardly, record price change. But at this stage where, like transport, like exchange rate, the change of the local currency, so it's touching every item. And therefore, underwear, was not left behind. And that's why you're seeing it in the top 20.
But it's specific that it's women's underwear, 89%. Is it the case that men's underwear is not driving? Is it that they are not buying? What exactly is the situation?
When we're discussing this today, I remember one of your colleagues gave a very interesting response. I mean, it's like, inflation has to do with demand and supply. Say women are more careful about their undies, unlike with the men. So even though everything is increasing, women probably are demanding more. They are not being perturbed by the increase in price. So probably. But I mean, that's probably on the softer side. But I think we could do further research to find out why women andi and not men andi. But I think the demand for women andi is higher than the men andi.
Okay, well, we look forward to that further research on that. We are grateful. That's the head of price statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service, Foster Ajaho there. We'll be bringing in an economist on this as well. But I must note that we've reached out to two persons in government for a reaction on this particular situation. But they say they are unavailable to give us further talks on this. But as it stands now, at the end of October, we are at 40.4% in terms of inflation. George Wiafe, it's a good time to bring you in because I'm sure there's more in business on this.
Definitely, interesting discussions there, but some would say that at the end of the day, we all want to rely on the National Statistical Office to give us the data that is measuring averages across the country.
But you've been interacting with economists, renowned economists. Some of them believe that the figures could be hitting 50.
And just like what the statistician said, that's an opinion. Going down on the ground to measure. That's why they are month on month, they are regional data and all the rest. So it's striking an average. The fact that your personal basket of inflation could be higher, but across the country, striking an average, this is what the national office is telling us. And for us, if you follow the statistical service in terms of the reforms that has taken place since 2000, even reviewing the basket, making the basket more relevant to things that we consume now, there is no way that if you appreciate what they do, you want to doubt the numbers that they put out there.
Okay.
Well, I'll be getting you more in business where rising cost of imported items and spiking food prices push the October inflation rate to 40.4%. We have details on the impact of this development on consumers, businesses, and the larger economy. And former IMF director indicates the fund's proposal for Ghana will not be different from previous suggestions on how to turn around the economy as we negotiate for a program before the end of this year. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Alliance Live, and Ghana Pay.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
It's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Sharp! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information.
MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Alande! Missy! Alande!
Adepay na Alande.
Ghana Pay Alande.
Hey, finally! Ghana Pay Alande.
Do more your way on Ghana Pay. Send and receive money at 0 transaction fees. Pay bills, buy airtime and data. Transfer money in and out of your bank account and so much more with Ghana Pay. Dial *707# to register for Ghana Pay or download the Ghana Pay app from the Play Store or App Store.
Alande! Ghana Pay Alande.
Ghana Pay. Your money, your way.
This service is powered by Gibbs.
Allianz, insurance since 1890. At Allianz Life Ghana, we have a wide range of life insurance packages to suit all pockets, from individuals, groups, associations, and businesses. We cover your employees, your funerals, pensions, children's education, and your future. Call us on 0302 267 892 or visit our website www.allianz-gh.com for more inquiries. Allianz Life. We secure your future.
When everything works in your car, it all sounds so smooth. But when you replace them with inferior parts, it doesn't quite sound the same. Get original Peugeot and Citroen parts and expert servicing from Silver Star Auto, the official distributor for Citroen and Peugeot in Ghana. Visit silverstar.com.gh or follow us on social media for more details.
Afiwe, Black Stars fans say attempted
Yeah, Jai!
Team selection.
Yeah, Jai!
Na coaching Ejumanen swear.
Yeah, Jai!
Hey, now Black Stars beat maybe B. Saka Sanonso.
Yeah, Jai!
No negative talk. Positive talking kwa. Mamayan Kamum. Qatar 2022 way. Nayanta Black Stars echi. DSTV the 64 matches ni na be bro with DSTV compact so. For 169 Ghana cedis beji decoder and the year. Ghana, it's our moment.
Ah, na Jordan, you could be there.
Hey, Masa. Yejai.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, rising cost of imported items and spike in food prices pushed the October inflation rate to another record levels. The Ghana Statistical Service put the figure at 40.4%. But how is this spike going to impact on you as a consumer and even the larger economy? There's more in this report.
The Ghana Statistical Service data show that food as well as import inflation were the major drivers for the general price levels in October this year. The month-on-month inflation for the first time in a while went up marginally to hit 2% in September and 2.7% for the month of October. It is clear that increases in price of fuel and transport fares is what is impacting the cost of carting foodstuff from the farm gates to markets in the regional capitals. A further scrutiny of the numbers show that food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity and transport impacted on the national inflation numbers. But for many people, the biggest question is, why should I care? Well, for one, it has reduced the value of the money you're holding now compared to that of October 2021. This will result in the high cost of living for many consumers as well as businesses. The returns and value on your investments will also not be left out, as it will drop significantly. This development may force the Bank of Ghana to hike the policy rate again, a move that could result in the cost of credit going up in the coming weeks. Expect traders to pass on the cost of carting foodstuff to the market to consumers. Some have also argued that the latest development is clear that government will not change its end-of-year target for inflation.
And that is a Business Desk report. In a related development, economist Professor Peter Cote has maintained that the soaring inflation rate shows that the country has still not tried to address the root cause of the spike.
It tells us clearly that it's not yet to slow down shortly. Quite interestingly, in July, August, September, that is when we record bumper harvest. Food yields are quite good, yet we are witnessing high rates of inflation. So it tells us clearly that there's some fundamental cause of inflation which we have not addressed. One basic factor is there's depreciating cedi. As the exchange rate continues to depreciate rapidly, it translates into higher food prices, it translates into high cost of transport and many other things. And that is what is affecting almost every segment of the society.
And that is the economist Professor Peter Cote. Now, a former director at the IMF, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkuma, has maintained that the program proposals that the IMF will put forward for Ghana might not be different from previous suggestions. Now, government is currently locked in negotiations with the IMF for a possible staff program before the end of this year. Dr. Kuma notes that this shows that the problem with the economy hasn't changed over the years. He's been speaking at the Stambik Graphic Breakfast program in Accra, which was exploring the number of times that Ghana has been to the IMF. He adds that Ghanaians should be measured about the expectation for this program.
Now, I need to be quite frank with you because we may be disappointed. Because although they may be looking at the country, Ghana, the prescriptions might turn out to be the same as we've done 17 times. It's the same fiscal, the same monetary, the same exchange rate, and the same structural policies. Because it's an economy which is living beyond the means, you have to try and get back the liquidity that would allow you to go back. So we've talked about deficits, we've talked about high interest rates, we've talked about monetary overhang. There's nothing new in all this. So that's why I'm saying that you're going to be shocked by what happens. That we're all Ghanaians, everybody's waiting for manna to fall in heaven. All that's going to happen is that we're going to have to tighten our belt.
Let's now hear from the chairperson of the Graphic Business Stambik Breakfast meeting here in Accra, Professor Dr. Priscilla Chimesi-Bafo. She's also been putting across some suggestions on how to deal with the current challenges facing the economy.
Here we are once again for the 17th time seeking another IMF program. So on a lighter note, I ask for the 17th time, if this was a marital relationship, I am sure by 17 years, each partner would have found his or her level in the relationship. So back to the theme, 17 times too many. What should we stop doing and start doing as a people? Logically, the question to ask is, Do we know what to do as a people? Of course we do. And like the MD of Graphic Business mentioned, Ghanaians have been to top universities all over the world. And indeed, we excel because Ghanaians have a reputation of being very intelligent and exceptional in whatever they do, probably globally, but in our public service, maybe we need to ask ourselves a number of questions.
Economist Professor Godfrey Bobkin wants a drastic reduction in the size of government and seal the loopholes and see how they can deal with the challenges in the public sector.
We want to collect more revenue. We must also be looking at expenditure efficiency. I said something some time ago, and a lot of people, like, it didn't go down with people. A sports child does not need more money. That child needs more discipline. They must go together. Ghana is a sports child. In terms of our lack of fiscal discipline, inefficiencies in our public investment management process, procurement infractions. This whole economy has been turned into a procurement economy, right? And the infractions in there and all of this. If you have such environment, you will be very careful to say, keep on generating more revenue. So, like somebody will say, whilst you advise the cat, you must also advise the stinking fish.
And that is economist Professor Godfrey Bobkin speaking at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting here in Accra. Let's get to the stories. And the oil exploration firms in the country have taken steps to ensure that we have the required legal environment to aid oil exploration and right gas infrastructure. They're also looking forward to see how gas produced can be used for domestic consumption. Now, this was captured in a position paper that was launched at the Oil and Gas Conference organized by the Ghana Upstream Petroleum Chamber. David Ampofo is chief executive of the chamber.
Gas should be our focus because the transition really is oil now. It's going to move from oil to gas to renewables. That's the trend. We have a lot of gas. We've built pipelines. We've developed infrastructure for our gas. We can't just abandon it and go off when we've been working all these years for that. And it's big investment. So we need to develop that. We need to harness our gas. Ghana has a lot of natural gas. Comes to the oil offshore. It's in deep water. Okay, but we need infrastructure, the pipelines, the plants, processing plants. We need to make sure that we harness our gas, domestic gas resources. So we cannot forget about our own gas. It's the same as rice. Rather than import rice, we have to understand our resources. We must not underestimate.
Chief Executive of the Ghana Upstream Petroleum Chamber, David Ampofo. To the stock market, if you have invested in the market, your investment is down by a little over 11%, as there wasn't any price change on the market at the end of trading. And that's all for business on News Night. Back to you, MFA. Interesting comments about the inflation and the debate will still go on.
Yeah, it will.
But who will have the final say? The National Statistical Office.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, George. There are some messages that you've been sending us. Mayuba from Yabong in the Savannah region says inflation to go up with already economic hardship, what we currently experience. And this is not what President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia promised us. A number of your messages, I'll go through them shortly. But let me quickly bring in my colleague, Joseph Akable. There are a number of stories he's been covering today from the court. But today we know that a Ghanaian YouTuber, Elom Abibio, popularly known as Amma Governor, will not be called to the Ghana Bar on Friday when her colleagues formally joined the profession. This is in spite of a successful completion of the professional law program that saw her pass her exams and scale the interview session as well. She was due to be called on Friday, but received a letter from the secretary to the General Legal Counsel informing her of the decision. A complaint is said to have been received from a concerned citizen alleging that she lacks good character. This is coming as the Ghana School of Law is asking students to now submit their social media handles for monitoring to ensure that they maintain a character befitting the legal profession. Yao Opong is director of the legal profession. We'll hear from him shortly, but we've also been hearing from a member of the Constitutional, Legal and Subsidiary Legislation Committee, Roxanne Nelson Dafamekbo, demanding the directive to the students must be withdrawn as it constitutes violation of the rights of these students as enshrined in the 1990 1992 Constitution. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has a copy of a statement he has released. He joins us via Zoom with details of it. So, Joseph, Mr. Dafamekpo insists this directive constitutes a violation of the rights of these students. What more does he say? Walk us through it.
In fact, he makes the point that it is an issue of worry, that efforts are being made to take the federal away the rights of law school students. He said any such efforts must be resisted. He says social media has come to provide a legitimate platform for ordinary citizens to have access to media and a medium for the expression of their views emanating from conscience and beliefs without any hindrance. He goes on to quote Article 21A and B of the Constitution, which states that all persons shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, which shall include the freedom of the press and any other media, freedom of thought, conscience, and belief, which shall include academic freedom. And so he makes the point that the directive demand or request to law school students must therefore be withdrawn, as same violates the Constitution and the rights of these students as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution, MFA.
Well, on this directive in particular, you've been interacting with some of your colleagues, students as well, on this. What's really been the reaction?
It's that of mixed. I mean, there are those who hold the view that this is a relatively conservative profession, and so it's a case of, bidding your time and making sure that you sail through. Then afterwards, you can go ahead and express yourself. But the others who also hold the view that, like as has been expressed by Mr. Roxanne Efiamekpo, that the directive is contrary to freedom of speech, and they believe that their lives on social media should be treated independent of their lives as students, especially when they meet all the requirements they are supposed to meet in school.
Thank you very much, Joseph Akable. There is our court correspondent bringing us up to speed on this particular directive from the Ghana School of Law. Yao Pong is director of the school. He's been explaining further.
For the registration for the second year, I'm speaking to you because of all of you. Unless you want to stay away, you are likely tenants in the Part 2 classroom. Everybody will have to provide your social media handles. We are going to look at it. You'll be monitored in terms of conduct, and we are required by law to make recommendations. Elsewhere, each and every one of you should be submitted for that check before finally council has proved upon satisfaction that you're a person of good conduct or good character. So we don't want to stampede you. You are going to reapply beyond the past. You are going to reapply and submit yourself for all the necessary and legitimate checks.
So that's Yao Pong, director of the Ghana Law School. Well, speaking about directives, we know that we're getting ready for that censure motion to be moved tomorrow, and already the minority have whipped their members in line to be part of this particular move. But there's a directive from the NPP as a party. Joint News editor Araba Kumsin joins me in studio with details of what we are learning from the NPP. What is it?
So a while ago, we received a statement from the NPP signed by the General Secretary, Justin Kodia Frimpong, and it reads, by this directive, the leadership of the Majority Caucus, especially the whips, are to ensure that no member of the Majority Caucus partakes in this exercise by the minority group in Parliament. While the National Executive Body acknowledges the prevailing socio-economic conditions in the country and the need for urgent remedial interventions, it is our utmost position that the demand of the NDC-led Minority Caucus is ill-intended and aimed at derailing government's efforts at resolving current socio-economic upheavals. The leadership acknowledges that the Minister for Finance is the leader of government's negotiation team with the IMF, considering that negotiation with the IMF is nearly completed. The national executive body of the party strongly believes that the removal of the lead person spearheading the negotiation may adversely impact the progress made thus far. And it's worth noting that when similar calls were made for the head of SETEPE, the then Minister for Finance during the socio-economic turbulence under the erstwhile Mahama administration in 2015, the NDC-led Majority Caucus objected to those calls and rose to the defense of Mr. Tepe, a clear indication that the NDC lacks credibility on this matter. Accordingly, neither the MPP nor its members of parliament will lend support to this mischievous move by the NDC legislators, as it is one of their many ill-motivated and self-serving but unpatriotic moves to sabotage the MPP government and frustrate the the administration of the country.
Okay, thank you very much. Joining us, Editor Araba Kumsin. Well, let's hit the labour front. And the National Labour Commission has directed the 3 teacher unions to call off the strike and return to the negotiating table with the government. For days now, academic activities have ground to a halt as the 3 teacher unions, NAT, NAGRAT and Concerned Teachers say the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as Director General and the extension of the stay of the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Education Service will spell doom for them. Here's what the NLC has been saying at their meeting today.
The Commission saw reason that they had something that they could complain of, but they have to engage with the ministry. So they have been given 1 week to engage with government on the 2 issues that they raised. That is the appointment of Dr. Nkansa, that's Eric Nkansa, as Director General of GES, and then the extension of time for the Deputy Director General, who after his retirement, he has been given extension to be in office.
Now, beyond the strike, if the teacher unions fail to call up, what will you do? Will you go to court, seek court intervention?
They will call off. That is why it was adjourned for 1 week.
What word did they give you before walking out of the meeting?
We do not take word from people whether they will comply or not. This is an institution. We give directive, and when we give directive, we expect that people will comply. It is only when we fail to comply that we may take the next step. But in a period of 1 week, at least they gave us the assurance. They gave us all the assurance.
That's the NLC boss there. After that meeting, government is happy about that decision, but we'll be monitoring the situation going on, and we know that the CLOCSAG have also declared their support for the teacher unions. But there's one issue that most of you have been talking about all day, and is about the Black Stars and why John Pencil, Afinajan, amongst others, will not make it to the final squad. But the team are in the studio. They know it all. We have Musbao and Tahiru Fento in the studio. Musbao, take it away.
Yes, it's exactly 11 days to the 2022 World Cup, and Black Stars head coach Otuado is expected to unveil the full squad for the tournament in the coming hours. And very shortly, we're going to talk about, because what we understand is Felix Afenyajan, who led the Black Stars attack in that crucial qualifier against Nigeria home and away, has been left out of the squad. We also understand Belgium base Joseph Pinto has also been left out of the squad, and a few other players are also likely to miss out. In studio is Tahiru Fento, who is going to help me appreciate exactly why a player like Felix Afenyajan and Joseph Pinto have been left out of the squad.
Well, you have to understand that Coach Otuado still hasn't named the 26-man squad, so anyone could be wrong at this point. But the reason the journalists know who has been left out of the squad in particular is because the head coach has been calling every single player to inform them of his decision. And those that have been left out are the ones that are telling the journalists that the coach has called me to tell me that I'm not going to the World Cup. So that's how the people know, those who are not going to the World Cup. Because everybody's saying, where's the squad? Where's the squad? Why are you mentioning names? But where's the full squad? This is the reason journalists know who is not going to the World Cup. And you're right, the biggest exclusion is definitely Afenyajan, more so because he's been a crucial member of Otuado's team since he took charge of the team, played in those 2 games against Nigeria, did well, scored his debut game under Otuado. But you just have the sense that move to Cremonese, because he was at AS Roma when he made all of those appearances. But since he moved to Cremonese, things haven't been exactly rosy. He's made 7 appearances in Serie A. 5 of them have been as a substitute. And you put that alongside the fact that other players have become available suddenly during that period in that position, like Inaki Williams. I think that all of those factors have combined to get to the conclusion where he's not going to the World Cup. And he's not the only one that is disappointed. In fact, the consul of Ghana to Italy, Massimiliano Tariconi, he tweeted that a dream had been taken away from Afenyajan by that exclusion. And he's not the only one that is upset by the exclusion of a player.
Yes.
Of course, Jeffrey Schlupp's exclusion is also another big talking point.
Big talking point.
And his agents yesterday, or a member of his management team, took to Snapchat and called the GFA disgraceful, corrupt bunch of people because, Jeffrey Schlupp was excluded from the squad. And the understanding we have is that when Otuado called Jeffrey Schlupp, he basically told him that he hadn't seen enough of him to include him in the squad, which is a bit surprising because he started in 11 matches for Crystal Palace this season in the world's top league. So it's impossible for anyone to say they haven't seen enough of him, unless you've chosen not to watch.
I mean, especially when he plays with
Jordan Ayew,
and Jordan most likely is going to be in the squad. So if you've been able to monitor Jordan, it begs the question why you'd be able to say that you haven't seen enough of Jeffrey Schlupp. But I mean, in the coming hours, we expect Otuado to name the final squad. I mean, what do you expect? We'll get to hear what some Ghanaians have been, saying relative to the kind of players they expect in the squad, etc. But what have you picked?
Well, I can tell you what. There wouldn't be a lot of surprises in terms of who make the squad. I think Otuado has already indicated that he has 70% of his squad ready, and that 70% we're talking about, we're all in that team that he named for the friendly matches against Brazil and Nicaragua. So then expect some wild cards here and there. And as Nuama, a youngster who played for Northland, was wildly rumored to be in the squad. He is not. So I expect a lot of old faces in there. Andre Ayew, Jordan Ayew. Not exactly Mubarak Wakaso, because from my understanding, he is not been included in the squad just yet. He's on a standby list, if you like. But I think it would be pretty regular. So the Inaki Williams, the Thomas Partey.
So pretty much the regular players.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any surprises.
Some Ghanaians have been expressing their what they expect in terms of what Otuado should name in the squad. Pretty much there.
I wanted to see Jeffrey Schlupp, but from what I'm hearing, it seems he will not be part of it. But I think Ghanaians, we need to calm down. The coach is the one who is going to take charge. He knows the kind of players that will fit into his technical abilities and everything. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
The midfielders, Baba Idrisu should be in. Partey as usual. Andre, Dede Ayew, Jordan Ayew. The strikers, Inaki Williams, Antoine Semenya.
As Jesse Schlupp, I'm expecting a player like Gideon Mensah to take over where Baba Rama is, because if you have to take Baba Rama, which I know because he's a Kirk boy, the GFA president will take him, but no matter what, he will take him. But to me, Baba Rama doesn't deserve to go to the World Cup.
I expect 4 players to join the squad. A player like Schlupp is supposed to be part. A player like Ashimeru is supposed to be part. A player like Pencil from Genk, he's supposed to be part. And
well, some of your views there, and that's how we wrap up today's edition of Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. We have Strong and Sassy coming up next with Aram and the team. You want to stay for details of that this evening. Interesting discussion. How difficult has it become to remain strong and sassy in these difficult times? Please stay with Aram and the team for more coming up next on Strong and Sassy.